My next guest has got another big fight coming up here. He's going to be taking on Jose Johnson. Borroka Presents XFC 53, September 20th. You can watch that on Spectation Sports. It's Juan Archuleta back here on the program. Juan, how you doing, man?
Good, good. Thanks for having me on, James. I always appreciate talking to you and having doing media with you.
Well, I appreciate that, and I like talking to you as well. It's we got a lot to get into. Actually, before we talk about this fight, man, I don't think you and I have had a chance to speak about your viral knockout in your last fight. That got a lot of attention. I saw it everywhere on social media. I'm sure you knew when you got that win that you get some attention, but were you surprised with how many people were kind of circulating that clip?
Yeah, it was you never know how crazy things are gonna go until it just hits the media, and then next thing you know, you're all over everything, and you see it for the next 2 weeks, and you're like, man. Even now, like with this fight coming up, it's everywhere again, and it's really cool to see.
Were you surprised? I mean, obviously you're fighting in Borroka again, which is awesome. Again, good fight here. But were you surprised it didn't catch the eye of the UFC? I thought after that knockout, I was like, okay, like this is what the UFC wants. They want, guys that are finishing fights, and like I said, was everywhere. Have there been discussions with you in the UFC after that win?
Not yet. My plan was not to reach out yet. Just because I know how things work, I'm not oblivious to the fact of bringing something that's really sellable to the UFC. I'm not saying the knockout wasn't, but I did come off 3 losses my last 3 fights, so it's having that understanding that's like, okay, like I lost to these 3 guys. One of them had a title fight right away in the UFC,
Right.
and then the last 2 guys had the Ryzen title. So I was like, okay, it's not like I lost to scrubs, but I know that I after beating this last guy, I need at least 2 more big wins to showcase that I'm really ready.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. And you must have been pretty excited when Jose Johnson came on your radar, because again, a UFC veteran that always looks good on the resume if you can defeat a guy that's already been in the UFC.
Yeah, and it was tough because a lot of guys said no to the fight, and
Oh, really?
then
Okay.
yeah, and then they presented some rematches that they wanted me to do, but I was like, oh man, I don't know if that really does anything for me. I already kind of had that fight already, and I don't know if that sells. It's guys that were in the Bellator before, maybe something more of a UFC. A guy that was in the UFC more will be more of a statement than just fighting a rematch.
Yeah, and well, this is a different scenario, obviously, because it's not a case of opponents turning you down, because you obviously said, like, hey, I don't want to fight guys I've already fought, but who are some of the names that were being thrown around about you fighting as opposed to Johnson?
Yeah, one of them was Henry Corrales,
Oh, okay.
and then and then there was like a Bendejas, and like
Okay.
they were trying to reach out to some other guys. I know they brought up JP's what's his name? He was in PFL by
Oh,
my
JP St. Louis? Oh,
Jeremy
Jeremy Kennedy.
Kennedy, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they said that he was going to fight at 155, and then I was like, oh man, like he was in the UFC, that's a good fight. And then we found out that he was fighting up at lightweight, and I was like, that would have been a good fight, but he got signed to a different organization, and so right now the one that went through and ended up making sense for everyone was Jose Johnson.
Yeah, no, I'd say
Because
so
he took
too.
it right away. He took it right away because he actually was supposed to fight the guy that I just fought and knocked out.
Oh, interesting. Okay, because yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. So I live here in Vancouver. Jeremy's actually fighting tonight here in Vancouver at
Yeah,
BFL.
there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
what it was.
So yeah, that's and like you said, 155. Like you're. I would assume you're best suited at featherweight anyway. So I don't know if you'd want. I know you'll fight anyone any weight class. You're sort of the belt collector on the regional scene. We know this, but yeah, I think this actually works out better. Did you know much about Johnson before taking this fight? Like it's not like he's been in the UFC for a long time, but we have seen him for the last couple of years. Were you familiar with him before accepting the fight?
Yeah, I was familiar with him. I know because he was a big dude that dropped down to 125, and I
I
was like,
know
man,
that's
this
the
guy dropped
crazy
down to
part. Yeah.
125.
Yeah.
Like, okay, and then to see him up at 145, and he's just a guy that was on the radar for the UFC who fought there, and it was like, man, okay, this guy took the fight, cool, like let's do it, let's run it.
Yeah. And so now that you have had a chance to look him up, how do you feel like your style matches up against his?
I think really well. I have a lot of championship experience, and that's what I'm going to bring into this fight is like, the timing, the speed, the power, the transition of MMA and chain fighting. It's like that's what I do best at, and I think he's like still very like sticky. Although like with his transition of fighting, he's either boxing or he's grappling. There's no in between with them. And that's what I want to show, that I'm ready with the UFC, like that I'm so high level with my MMA still that, you know, like last night or earlier this week, one of our fighters, Chapolin, didn't get accepted to Dana off the Dana White Contender Series.
Mm.
And it was like, well, why do we need this guy? What was this in this fight that made me want this guy? So it's a reminder to show that, okay, I got to showcase that I'm a killer, you know, and I got to show Dana White that I'm a killer and that we need this guy in the featherweight division.
Yeah, well said. Take me through camp a bit. Who've been some of the main guys helping you get ready for this one?
So right after this fight, I took off to Morocco
Oh, cool.
with Nasserat. Yeah, and then a lot of guys at the SPG gym were out there training. World-class kickboxers, and I was really thankful for Coach Syed running some drills, and especially thankful for Nasserat and his brother Hijo and the Majesty there hosting us. The King of Morocco just opening up his country. It's a beautiful country, and we had everything we needed. And so I was very thankful to be able to be part of that group out there in Morocco.
Okay,
And then
cool.
coming home, yeah, we still had Danny Silva, we have Giga Shikade, we have Cub Swanson, and Larion Douglas, who's fighting on the Contender Series this week or next week coming up. And so I'm just thankful for all the Bloodline guys too, because they've been keeping me up to par. You know, Chris McCarty, all these guys are just doing a tremendous job of keeping me young and keeping me sharp.
Cool. Okay, yeah, you mentioned a lot there. When you said Nasrat, is that the UFC lightweight or is that a different guy you're talking about?
Yeah, the 155 or
Oh,
hot shots.
hack press. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I
hot
wasn't
press,
sure about
yeah.
that. When you said that, that's kind of what I figured. I'm like, just in case, I wanted to make sure there's not two Nasrats there. And then another name you mentioned there, Chikaze. Is he not at Kings or he just cross trains with you guys?
No, he's not at Kings anymore. He goes between Jackson and us with that bloodline.
Oh,
And
cool.
so,
Okay, nice. Yeah, I
yeah,
didn't know that. That's a good asset to have in camp, right? Kickboxer.
yeah,
And,
very,
yeah.
very much. And then, you know who else we've been working with is Jalen Turner as well.
Oh,
He's been
cool.
super helpful. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So,
So
so
that's the
Jalen's back in
body. Like,
California because I thought he moved to Florida.
yeah, he moved to Florida, and then after he retired, he moved back to Southern California. And then, he had reached out to Cub, and Cub was like, you know what, just come around and be around the guys, and it'll be a waste for you not to use your mind that you have for MMA for to help some of these guys.
Okay, interesting. So he's training with you guys because some people maybe think is he going to come back because that his last fight was a fight he was winning and then he just got caught and I know he kind of retired and he was dealing with a lot. Do you get the sense maybe he'll come back or I guess we'll let him decide that.
Yeah, because it was a lot of things happen in life that are like, man, you lose control sometimes of your home life and your business life and then your normal life and then the fighting life and then you're constantly on the go. And so sometimes we all need to unplug and just kind of like settle down and realize what's really important in life and then and get everything back into cohesive brand together, you know. And I think that's what he's doing right now, just getting everything cohesive with his family life, himself, spiritual, mentally, physically, emotionally, all those type of things are getting checked off, you know.
Okay, good. Well, no, I'll be keeping tabs because obviously Jalen's a great fighter, and I understand he was dealing with a lot, but a lot of people are kind of like, you're retiring already. Like he's obviously got a lot in his career. Your corner, who will be making the trip with you? Who will be in the cage with you for this fight?
Oh man, it's one of those unfortunate things that I mean it's really good. It's not unfortunate,
Hmm.
but Dan Agueda's having a wedding the same night I'm fighting.
Oh,
So a lot
really?
of the
Okay,
blood,
wow.
yeah, a lot of the bloodline guys are headed out to Albuquerque, and so congratulations to Dan and his wife Allie. They're getting married on September 20th. So all the guys are heading there. So I was like, man, like okay, I need to find some guys that are gonna be able to corner me. So Carter Starochi, he was the only five-time NCAA champion. He's gonna come out and corner me. He's gonna be transitioning into MMA here after he makes his Olympic run. Joe Daddy Stevenson talked about coming out and
Oh,
being in my
cool.
corner, so it's gonna be nice to have him back in my corner. My brother Tino, he's going to be in my corner, and then one of my really good friends, Mike Mars, is as well going to be in my corner.
Cool. That's awesome. How's this fight playing out? Pretty. You set the bar pretty high in that last fight. So how do you see this one going?
Yeah, again, I got to showcase MMA. I got to show the comfortability of being in the cage. This is only my second fight back in the cage in two and a half years,
Mhm.
3 years almost. So it's just showing everyone that I'm a dominant cage fighter, and that's what I want to show, that I'm well-rounded, that I could transition all my martial arts together and just full out dominate the guy. And then when the position and the kill shots present itself, take full advantage of that.
We kind of talked about it off the top. Obviously, another good win here. Then we can start maybe having some conversations with the UFC. So I guess that's kind of the plan there. But the reason I bring it up with you, and some people might be like, "Yeah, you lost a couple fights and just won one," is that we've seen a lot of Bellator talent go to the UFC. In particular, we actually have one of your former opponents fighting this weekend, Patricio Pitbull. What have you made of his run? Because obviously he had the tough fight with Yair, but that was a good win over Dan Ige in his last fight. And I'm a little bit surprised they're giving him kind of this up and comer in Quetta this Saturday. What do you make of Pitbull being in the UFC?
Yeah, and a lot of that transition were, with Pico and with Pitbull and MVP. You never seen these guys corner any of the guys that fought in the UFC before. So they never got that full experience of walking the tunnel, being in the cage, like being cage side. And so when you walk in there, it is shell shocked, right? You understand the experience of like all the media stuff, and it brings a different presence, it brings a different noise. There's a lot more drawn on the table, and then plus you're fighting killers, man. Like everyone knows, UFC has the best fighters in the world, and so I've made these walks. I've sparred with Brian Ortega's, the TJ Dillashaw, Cub Swanson, all these guys. Nasser out right now is training with him, who's gonna crack the top 10, and all the guys like Danny Silva and Dan Agueda, like these guys, like and Rafa Garcia, who's going to be fighting this weekend, which I'll be out at UFC No Chip for. I've made these walk with these guys and corner them, so I feel like I am ready, and I know I could make that walk and make an impact and continue to fight the way that I've done because I've already envisioned myself there. And so that's why I think they haven't been able to go out there and make a statement on their first fight right away, because it's kind of like the impact that the UFC brings. There is a big aura to it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, and also I think like the UFC's shown that it doesn't matter how old you are, they will bring you in if they feel like it's going to be, something that's going to be viable for them. The perfect example is Pitbull. But another guy you have a win over, had a tough debut as well as Patchy Mix. What did you make of him coming over? Because I think, Mario Batista's a tough guy. Let's be honest. Like, I think it was one of those cases where, Patchy had a lot of momentum and Mario, a lot of people kind of hating on him for that Aldo performance.
Yeah, and the PFL didn't do those guys no favors either. They didn't keep them very active.
Good
Like I
point.
think
Yeah.
all of them had one fight within 2 years, and it was
Yeah.
tough. Like you look at my on the sale of the PFL or the Bellator to PFL, I've already had what now 7 fights since that merger. So
Mhm.
I'm active. Like I've stayed active, and I have wins and I have losses. I have titles and I've lost titles. So it's not you won't see the inactivity from me. That's like, oh, I have to cut the weight. I have to do this.
Mhm.
Like it's a big weight cut for Patchy. Was a big weight cut. I think he is going to bounce back his next fight, which he has. I forgot who he's fighting. He has a good fight lined
KSW
up.
guy. It's another
It,
it's kind of weird what they're doing with the Bellator fighters. Like they're giving them these like really good international fighters for the next fight. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah.
yeah, and I think he's gonna make noise this fight now. Now he's like, okay, I got that monkey off my back. Where it's like I had my first UFC fight, and the worst case happened, I lost. Okay, now I have nothing but to go up from here.
Yeah.
And so now he's gonna be prepared. Now he has the time, the camp. Instead of I think he had like a 20-day notice to cut the weight and everything like that. So it's tough, man. It's tough to do that.
Yeah. And just last one I want
And,
to ask.
and
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, and we've seen that this weekend too with our fighter Chapolin, right? Like he
Yeah.
had an awesome knockout in the LFA, like almost like 11 days too early. He got this beautiful knockout in the LFA, and then to try to turn around and redo that, it's very hard for fighters. And that didn't get taken into account where he made the weight, he got the knockout, and then they expected him to come back and do that in 11 days, which is very tough, man. Like I'm not making an excuse for him, and he
Mhm.
took full advantage of the opportunity. Because if you say no to the opportunity when they're like, "Hey, we have this opportunity for you to fight on short notice," and you say no, they're gonna be like, "All right, man, like we gave you the chance." So he tried to take the chance, but unfortunately, it didn't go his way for the knockout. But he got the win.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's tough business, as they say. Just one more name I wanted to ask you about. You never fought him in Bellator, but Aaron Pico. That was a tough debut for him as well. I thought he looked good leading up to the knockout, but what did you make of his debut and his future? Because he's been finished a few times now.
Yeah, and he's a good friend of mine. I've known him for a long time, and I've trained with him. I was there with him for his debut.
Mhm.
I was actually in Morocco when the Mozart fight fell through, and I was like, oh, and a lot of that emotion too, right? Like he thought he was done with this, people pulling out stuff and the changes of an opponent and things like that. And he was doing very well. It's like, man, it's like he had him on the cage and just like just man, it's that's why we love MMA. There's no telling what's gonna happen, you know. And he took off right and came in, and then Murphy hit that spin and just connected, and it was just like one of those unfortunate things, man, because he was so ready for this opportunity, and we've seen it, right? Like knocked him down, and sometimes too offensive will be your demise, right? But you know, hey, if he would have beat that, if he would have beat that elbow and knocked him out, then everyone would be having a different tone and different story for him, you know?
Yeah, and he probably would have had a title shot too, because they don't seem to be giving one to mobs here. So we'll see what happens there. Juan,
Yeah.
thanks for doing this, man. We're looking forward to this. Borroka always putting on a great show here, coming up here September 20th. Anyone you want to thank? Any sponsors? Any social media? Anything like that? I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I want to give you a big shout out, James, for having me on. Like always, I really appreciate your fan base. You guys always stay tuned and always like giving me love, and so I really appreciate you having me on this platform. And I want to give a shout out to Broca and XFC for combining on this card. It was like after this big fight or that viral knockout I had, they collabed together and said, "Hey, let's put on a big show in Vegas. This is gonna be my first time fighting in Vegas. So if you're in the area, please check it out. Or if you're not doing anything that week, it's gonna be one of the only fight cards going on. There's no UFC, there's no PFL, there's no big boxing fights. So tune in September 20th and watch me as I continue my way to the UFC. And after this win, it's gonna be full guns blazing to the title fight for the UFC. And worst case scenario, I'm going back and back into Ryzen, and I'll be going to get that featherweight title over there, and then hopefully that'll bring me back into the UFC.